Welcome to my life as an NPC. I am Carbon Scythe, and today we're going to continue to play The Ladder. In the last episode, Isabella came over because she was freaking out about the ghost at the office. So she came running right to Zach's place, and they couldn't really talk all that much, but he knows that she is distraught, and he also knows she doesn't want to talk about it. So just let's forget about it. You can just sleep here. It's all good. Now, let's see what this day holds in store for us. Let's go. The first few notes, while muffled, aren't enough to wake me. In the end, it became one of those nights when sleep passes like a blink and it's plagued with vague, fuzzy thoughts. I lift a hand to rub away the drowsiness from my eyes, although it does little to relieve the gritty burning sensation from my eyelids. Outside, the sun has yet to peek over the horizon, but night has already given way to the cool morning light, washing everything in subtle grey hues. At this hour, the entire city remains unstirring. Ordinarily, waking up before my own alarm means abusing the snooze button twice or thrice to catch up those precious few extra minutes of sleep. But the persistent ringing makes it impossible now.
This better be good.
Groggily, I scramble for the bag sitting at the foot of the bed. The ringing still hasn't stopped even as I fish the phone out, and Ashton's name flashes brightly on the screen when I turn it on. Must be pretty urgent if he hasn't dropped the call yet.
Took you long enough, Z-Man.
Ashton, it's 6 in the morning. Sun hasn't even risen. Hell, my brain ain't even awake yet.
My brain ain't even awake yet.
Stop calling me Z-Man.
Eesh.
It's 20 past 6, Zach.
You're one to talk. Give me back my 5 extra minutes, Ash. I want my sleep.
Hey, don't make fun of me. I can be a more person too if I want to.
What's this all really about? You don't usually make calls around this hour. Is the world ending today?
Sorry about that. Becca rang me up a few minutes ago looking for Isabella. Said she didn't show up in her own apartment last night. We both tried calling, but her phone seems to be off. Do you have any idea where...
I should have known you two would come looking for her first thing in the morning.
Not a laughing matter, Zach. You can't really let your guard down with everything that's happened here recently. You've heard about the Cooper wound from the news. Everyone in the precinct has been restless ever since the incident the other day.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Listen, Ash, about Bella.
I let my voice trail off, unsure of how to go about recounting the last night. If I should even say anything to him. He might be a close friend, but at the end of the day, whatever's bothering her ain't mine to speak of in the first place. On the bed, Isabella remains as still as when I transferred her the night before. Sometime during her sleep, she pulls up a blanket over herself and tucked into it comfortably. Like this, it's easy to forget the horror in her eyes, or how much her hands and lips tremble. Save for her firm grip on the edge of the covers, she appears nearly as normal as she would any other day. Almost.
I'm not really sure how to go about this while being...
Zach, what about her?
Something, the worry, the concern, must have surfaced in my tone because his own shift's done. Carefully, as if he is preparing for the worst.
Look, you don't have to worry about her. She's with me right now. Since last night, in fact.
Oh, why didn't you just say so earlier?
She kind of knocked in the middle of the night. I couldn't possibly wake you two over that. And with how things are when she arrived, I thought it'd be best if I let her rest first. I just wasn't expecting people would be looking for her before the rooster even crows.
You could have at least called her something. Becca's beside herself with worry when she found out. You know how much she frets about the smallest stuff.
Yeah, but that is not a valid reason to call a third party about a second party being at your place. Unless you're about to brag about something.
I know. I'm sorry. That was a lapse on my part. And I just didn't think, okay, you know what? Rebecca's worries ain't completely baseless. Isabella hasn't been her usual self since the movie. Maybe even before that. I don't know if I should be opening my mouth about this, but Bella didn't outright say I shouldn't, so...
So something's wrong then?
I'm not quite sure, to be completely honest. I couldn't get the story out of her.
Really? I thought you'd learned something from me by now.
That's not it. Ash, when she appeared at my doorstep last night, she was shaking, and when I tried to ask her about it, she just panicked. Had this frightened look on her face. I'd be surprised if this was the first time I've seen it, but it ain't. Dude, the first time, she was screaming.
First time? When was this? You weren't talking about the thing in the movie house, are you? Because that was just us fooling around. Granted, I think I went overboard with the joke, but...
No, it happened the day after. When she invited us to lunch, you weren't there. We were walking 1 second, and then the next, she's crying out. I'll be straight with you. That scared me shitless.
It bothered him, if the way he falls silent after his telling. But whatever his opinion is, stays absent from his voice when he speaks again. He's always been good with that, hiding what he thinks.
Did she say anything else?
Nothing. Won't tell me anything aside from a few vague words. I didn't want to push it.
Where is she? Is she still sleeping?
Right here with me, still sleeping. Should I wake her up or something? Let her know you guys are looking for her?
No need. Let her rest. I'll drop by in a few.
Today? Don't you have work at this time? I mean, I can drop her off home myself before meeting my client later.
Look who's talking.
My schedule's flexible, Ash. Last time I checked, you're the one who didn't have that luxury.
Ooh!
How on earth do you think I'm able to tag along when you need me?
It's not completely out of the way.
They live on the other side of the town from you, Ash. Your definition of out of the way is a little screwed up, you know.
It's fine. I have some things I need to do anyway. I'll call you back. I've got to let Becca know that Scared Cat's fine. Bye.
Dude. He drops the call before I can even get a word in, and for several minutes after, I find myself simply listening as the rest of Luxborn rouses. But before that... we went back 3 days. Okay, we haven't even been on this day. A frightened Isabella Santos knocked at Zachary Steele's apartment in the middle of the night. Shaking, she refused to say what happened. Zachary let her stay regardless. Come morning, Zachary received a phone call from Ashton, who is looking for Isabella. Zachary informed him that she stayed over and of the circumstances. Before ending the call, Ashton offered to pick her up. The increasing sound of passing traffic, the bustle of the nearby shops preparing for the day, and the growing clamor of the people while they go about their morning. Not the most soothing sound to hear following a troubled night, but the routine puts me at ease nevertheless. What's comforting, what's safe, what I'm used to. Nearby, Isabella shifts but doesn't awake, blissfully unaware as the city slowly stirs itself back to life. Was her night as restless as the one I had? Were her dreams as lucid? In hushed moments like this, I envy her. Unreasonable, probably a little unfair to say such in light of last night. If only forgetting it is as easy as breathing. A small yawn escapes me when I rise from the couch to stretch. Luckily, this short conversation with Ash has effectively driven away any will to go back to the bed. I still have a day to get through despite the proverbial ghost hanging around. The orange bottle sitting at the edge of my table is reassuring against my palm the instant I pick it up. The sterile odor of the capsules, equally so. Yet the weight they carry is something I've never gotten used to. I'm assuming something for depression, maybe PTSD, if that uses some kind of medication, I don't know actually. Anxiety. Years ago I spent minutes, heck, even hours staring at a single pill prior to taking one in. Now it's just routine, a way to stave off the unwanted nightly visits. sleeping aid. Although I don't think Dr. Navarro will be quite pleased if he ever finds out I'm relying on them again. I do owe him a visit regardless, especially after missing our appointments on purpose and ignoring his calls for weeks. Another sigh's come out, tired and weary, and then I pop the tablet into my mouth.
Zach? What time is it?
The bottle on my hand hits the table with more force than necessary. As much as I trust my friends, there are some things I'd rather keep to myself.
Morning, Bella. Did you sleep well?
Or maybe night terrors, but you shouldn't take them at this time though. She answered the question with a long drawn-out yawn, one reminiscent of a child. A chuckle managed to come out of my mouth at the sight. In this manner, it's easy to mistake her for someone too young for responsibilities. Inexperienced and immature even. Easy to forget she was thrust into the role of an adult earlier than her own dreams can afford. To overlook how surprisingly observant she can be at times. Maybe not on the same level Ash exercises for his investigations, or Rebecca needs for her own work. But it's certainly enough to deftly put what she sees around her on canvas. And if the way her eyes flickers to the table and my hand says something, it is what I won't be able to avoid the question. It is that I won't be able to avoid the question this time.
Only a little. I don't remember how I ended up on the bed, though.
My doing. You didn't look very comfortable sleeping on the couch, all hunched up like that.
It would have been enough for something temporary. Sorry I stole your bed.
Hey, it doesn't matter. Besides, what kind of gentleman would I be if I leave a lady sleeping in such uncomfortable conditions? Not in this house. My nana will give me a tough scolding if I ever did that, I'm telling you.
Thanks a lot, Zach. I know I barged in at a very inconvenient time last night. I wasn't really thinking when I did, and...
Hey, it's cool, Bella. I ain't mad at you. That's what friends do. You guys are welcome here anytime. Although Ashton abuses the anytime part a lot, I don't really mind. We might have less wiggle room if all four of us are present, considering the size of this place. But as long as no one makes anything explode, it's totally fine.
Fine or not, I still owe you one for last night's trouble, especially since you don't seem to be...
A concerned expression passes over her features as she spares another cursory glance over the table. Back to the bottle, holding every small piece of what keeps the bad memories at bay. The blood blooming over Pa's heart. The horrified looks on Ma's face as she watches him fall lifeless to the ground, and every ounce of spite seeping from the stranger's smile. You don't belong here. You monkeys don't belong here. It never stops, doesn't it?
Well, you don't seem to be feeling well. Let me know, okay? I'll make it up to you somehow.
She makes a slight gesture with her head towards the bottle, asking a question without really asking. Subtlety has never been one of her greatest assets, but right now, even Ash would have been a little amazed, if not at loss for words at that. She has left it up to me whether I'll give her the response she wants to hear or not. A little clever coming from her, if anyone would ask me. You can't just hide that. I mean, yeah, sure, you want to avoid talking about these sort of things every once in a while, but I am a strong believer that you should not be afraid of any kind of mental issues. A broken brain is just like a broken leg. It fucks you up, and you need medication and help to fix it. So, tell the truth. But it's never easy, ain't it? Talking about my own problems, that is. It will never be, not by a long shot. Not when I let it stay this way for so long. How did that affect with Isabella? Wow, she really likes me. Wow. That's amazing. I realized that long ago, when the wounds are still fresh and the dreams are a nightly occurrence, can't force yourself to get better or move on to better things. It is what's normal now, and I can only cope. The question in her eyes may be unwarranted, born simply out of curiosity and sincere concern for a friend. I don't owe her an explanation, in fact. But of all the people I keep close in my life, she is probably one of the very few who perhaps I can trust this with. Maybe she won't understand entirely. I can never hope she will. No, never to the full extent. That alone is expecting too much of her and giving too much of what I can. However, for all her shortcomings, I know she'll hear me out. And that is all I can ask of her.
My bad. I was kinda hoping you wouldn't have seen me with these.
It peels rather lightly against the container when I gently set it back to its usual place. Always the small area closest to my laptop, near the right hand. Within reach whenever, and a quiet reminder of what I shouldn't miss every day.
What? Oh, is it bad? I was just thinking that maybe it's a cold like Becca's. Do you need me to get anything from the store? Soup or something? There's one nearby, right? I can run real quick and...
No, nothing of that sort. I'm perfectly healthy right now. It's really difficult to say, but... Can you promise me you'll listen at least?
What is this about, Zach?
I should have been upfront with you about this a long time ago. Well, Ashton found out without me telling him anything. But you already know how that guy is. Can't hide anything from him.
If it's something you're having trouble saying, you don't have to force yourself to tell me. I'll forget I ever saw anything and won't ask questions. Promise.
No, I need to get this off my chest eventually.
Exactly.
Besides, we're already here. Might as well finish what I started, yeah?
If you say so.
She takes a seat on the couch, her posture easy and open, and her smile honest. As if this is just a simple talk between two friends on a regular day. It is far from one, but her unreserved air is enough to stamp down the twinge of unease that threatens to come up.
Let's hear it then.
And she does. Feels like yesterday, share a painful memory to a friend. True to her words, she listens while the story spills out of my mouth, of my mom, pa, that little old diner across the pond, and what it left in me that day. I can't recall most of it now, my own account jagged with a few missing details here and there. The passing years have eroded most of my recollection of the whole incident. All except for the one moment in the kitchen. The ringing of gunshots are as vivid as it sounded that day. Even Ma's hysterical screams the moment Pa's body hits the floor motionless, his lifeblood flowing out from under him. And the gunman. He was smiling. He was smiling when Pa opened the door to welcome him. He was smiling when he put the bullet to Pa's chest and Ma's head. I heard stories of how the world can be a cruel place for people like us before. I never believed until that moment.
Nan and Gran took us right after that. Sis and I flew straight to New Jersey as soon as they heard the news. A few days after, Ma and Pa were laid to rest. And we have a new home a continent away. I didn't even get the chance to take my favorite pillow with me. They said something about the change of environment will be good for us. They had no idea the different kind of ghosts would follow me here.
I expected questions, mostly those bringing with it this childlike curiosity. Maybe something that are a little too hard to answer. But to her credit, she just sat there, lent her ears, and looked at me with no expectations of unnecessary judgment in her eyes. She appears wiser and older like this, easy to see than the breadwinner in her. Her younger siblings are lucky to have her. When I'm done after everything been said, she wraps her arms around me. A bit awkward considering the gap in our heights, but it gets her sentiment across. But it's difficult to answer this in kind, if I am even supposed to reciprocate the gesture given in my earlier apprehension. She pulls away shortly with a smile on her face. Not the reaction I braced myself for, but it's obviously better than what I imagined.
Are you not gonna say anything?
Am I supposed to say anything after? Like, apologize or something?
That's a good question.
I don't think that's very appropriate, but if you want to hear one, I can think of something real quick.
Not really. Other people have something to say after usually. And they're not necessarily nice either.
Oh, okay then. I won't. I can't think of something anyway. Sorry, I'm not very good with this. Who else knows, by the way?
My older sister, grandparents, and just Ash and you for now. Maybe I think I should tell Rebecca too, but...
But not right now?
Yeah, not right now. When I'm ready. Like today.
I'm sure she'll be willing to hear you out once you do.
And one thing that is important to know about this kind of thing, different people react different ways to these kind of stories. So if you're the last one in a group of friends or family or whatever that gets to hear this kind of thing, it doesn't mean that the person telling the story doesn't trust you. It simply means that the way your relationship works is different than with others. I don't know how to put it directly, more concretely, but it doesn't mean that they don't trust you. It just means that the way the two of you behave is so different from other people that it needs a very specific set of circumstances for you to feel like you can tell them that. It's specific circumstances, not later circumstances.
I don't doubt she will. I'm more afraid of how she'll react after. One step at a time, yeah? Whew. Surprisingly, it feels good to get that one out my chest. I was a little afraid you'd be angrier. I didn't tell you earlier than today.
I'm not angry. I'm just surprised. You didn't look like it. I wouldn't have suspected. I suppose that's how it often is, isn't it? We all have our... what's the word Becca uses? Inner demons? But this is something personal to you. I understand why you'd rather have a few people know.
That too. Well, these past few weeks haven't been easy for you. I didn't want to add that. Not after last night.
Something passes in her face, brief, fleeting, and disappears right before I can recognize what it is.
You okay?
Yep, no worries. I'll be fine.
Slap her across the head and say, dude, fucking talk to me.
Look, about last night... Never mind.
Okay,
This
don't do
isn't a good
that,
time.
but, you know. Don't hold shit back. You've gone over the edge about how your behavior was. You can't simply back out now.
But don't lose sleep over this, alright? What's important is you got what you want to say out. And if you need me, I'll be here.
I should be relieved. Her words are more than reassuring to my ears. It should be comforting hearing those alone, in knowing I have another person to rely on if things ever go bad. But somehow, I find myself worrying more for her instead. I'll make another attempt to get the story out of her if I can. But this is a dance I know all too well, and with her, I doubt forcing her to say something would yield any results. As much as I want to imitate Ash, there's only so much I can ask that won't result in something a little over disastrous. At best, she'll stop talking to me until a week passes. At worst, I'd rather not risk it. I've never seen her angry. Outright annoyed, maybe, and often directed at Ash, but never furious. What do they say again about happiest people when angered? Besides, I'd be unfair to her after our little chat.
So, food then?
She seems relieved at the brisk change of subject, as if it has been simply waiting for its cue all this time. Her stomach rumbles at the mention of food. Rather lovely, as a matter of fact.
Alrighty, Missy. We're going to get some chow now. Better be quick, though. Can't have your stomach starting a revolution on us here.
Don't make fun of me. I'm not that hungry. Maybe a little. I didn't think I'd end up skipping dinner last night.
And now we have one starved stomach protesting. Sorry, it'll be nothing fancy, since I'm a little low on stocks. I should probably drop by the grocery store after the meeting this afternoon.
I can make a quick run for you if you want.
Nah, I've got enough to put together something nice here. Maybe.
Maybe.
I could always improvise if we're missing an ingredient or two. It ain't like we're going for a Michelin 3-star status here. Also, didn't I say you're a guest? Is this a Filipino thing? Or just Rebecca rubbing off on you?
Ooh! The soft laughter that comes from her doesn't quite reach your eyes. Neither. The answer is neither. Because if she stays idle, she'll remember.
On second thought, I might need a little help slicing up the potatoes while I prep the ham.
Oh damn, he's good. He's fast on the response there.
You up for that?
What? Do you think instant noodles are all I'm about?
Yeah.
I'll have you know I can cook a mean paella with my eyes closed. All my siblings love it.
It's paella. Not paella. Not paella. Or whatever the fuck you said. Paella.
Sure you can. Come on. I think I know what we'll do with those spare ingredients.
Journal updated. Despite the massive effort to keep the mood light with small chatter, cooking ends up being a mostly quiet affair. Between us, the consistent clapping of the knife against the board and the muffled noise from the television is left running. Words have become surprisingly difficult to string together. Not entirely unusual, we've had moments like this before, but definitely unnerving with how things are now. I really wish someone else would come knocking at the door. As pleasant as this is, breaking the ice or keeping a conversation going has never been my forte. It has always been Isabella's or Rebecca's apartment. Let's see what the journal has to say. Isabella saw Zachary take an unknown medicine and concerned asked what it is for. He immediately admitted his suffering from a trauma, ever since his parents were killed in a hate crime. Isabella could only offer him a comforting hug to lighten the mood. The two decided to cook breakfast afterwards. Sometimes Ash, although most coming from him border on awkward or embarrassing. Speaking of the guy, he never did call back, and I'm willing to bet my entire yearly salary that he fell right back to sleep after that call. No?
Sorry, Bella, could you...
Yep, I got it. The potatoes are almost ready, by the way. I turned down the heat just in case. You might want to check on them, though. Hold on, I'll be right there. Sheesh, wait up. If you keep rapping at the door like that, you'll break it down.
She has a lot of attitude for being a guest.
Ash.
Oh, good. You're awake.
Ash is already welcoming himself in when I take my eyes away from the oven. He's never been really keen with the notion of courtesies after he's warmed up to you, this guy. All 13 of my locks he broke, he can attest to that. Dude, what? Why are you breaking his locks? He's a good fellow, though. Maybe a little bit standoffish at first glance, but he's trustworthy.
Don't you have work today?
I could ask the same of you. Hey, Izzy, man.
You're late. Something came up? You need to drop the Z-Man. It's getting old.
Sorry, I got caught with something at the precinct on the way here. Had to attend to that first before things got out of hand. I'd tell you about it, but you know how it can be with those kinds of things. Later, maybe.
And you're here because...
What? I'm not allowed to say hello?
I doubt you're here because of that. And you're not answering my question.
Ah, my bad. Forgot to mention that. He called earlier looking for you. Rebecca's worried because you didn't come home last night.
You could have called my cell instead.
You weren't picking up. Anyway, I'd really hate to cut this little get-together short, but I need to be somewhere else.
Oh.
Come on, Isabella, let's get you home. I'll drop you off on the way.
Wait, we're going now?
He lightly claps her a hand on her arm and begins ushering her out of the apartment, throwing a casual wave at me as they pass. What? This sounds strange, but why is he enforcing to take her home? I do not understand that at all. Isabella, on the other hand, doesn't appear to be fond of the idea. And sure enough, before they can even cross the threshold, She puts a firm foot down, the force alone enough to halt them both and catch the taller man off guard. It would have made for a funny picture. The way Ash almost crashes into her and Isabella giving him an indignant pout over her shoulder. Surprise and confusion are in his face all at once. Two things that rarely ever grace it if he can help it. A rare moment even if, for our small group. If only I have my camera with me. Damn.
What is it?
Zach cooked something.
If it's just food, I'll get you something on the way back.
What's going on here?
But the food! It's Zach's cooking. Real delicious food that actually tastes like food. At least stay and have a bite, please. Zach, help me here.
These two. Whenever they are in the same room, sometimes it feels like herding a group of unruly kids instead of talking to two mature adults. One moment they're engaged in a pleasant chit-chat and the next they're bickering over a minor issue. Frankly, if I didn't know any better and I have an overactive imagination, I'd say there's something going on. Never mind how utterly impossible that idea is. Or it might just be me reading too much into things like always. I can already hear Ash's laughter if I so much as suggest such. This, however. Honestly, I don't know what Bella's deal here is. She wants to go, but she doesn't want to say no to food. But why does she want to go is my question. Why does she want to... Why does she know that she needs to go so urgently? Did I miss something? I think Ash is a very serious person, and I think we need to kind of rely on that.
It's okay. I know you're busy.
Isabella and Ashton as well. Jeez. So they wanted me to ensure myself as, hey, I cook food for you, come here. That's strange. After all, handling organized crime cases isn't exactly what one call an easy job. It's understandable, the lack of time, his undeterrent to focus on his work. This has been a goal for him, I was told long ago. A childhood dream of sorts. Although I admit the disappointment is there. A small part of my person is looking forward to spending time with what few friends I have. This is something I wouldn't be able to give at the moment. We've each got our own lives to live.
Sorry about this, Zach. I should have come earlier, but you know how things go back there when shit hits the fan. It becomes messy.
It happens sometimes. Now, I do have spare containers with me here, though. At least bring some of what we cooked with you. I wouldn't be able to eat all of it alone anyway. It'd just be a waste. There's even enough here for Rebecca.
I don't have to go with him, though. I can stay.
Yeah, exactly. Why does Ash insist on you going with him?
I'll just go home later. Catch a bus or something.
I answer her offer with a small smile of my own. Does she realize that unconsciously, in her own little way, she's taking it upon herself to look after the people surrounding her? Like her own family, in place of... No, never in place. But an extension of what she has miles away.
Nah, it's cool. I need to be off somewhere soon. So, it's a good thing Ash arrived when he did. At least that way you won't be alone.
In the company of another person, she'll be safer from her thoughts from her own self.
If you insist. And thanks for letting me stay the night.
Hey, no problem. But you should really call if you want to drop by next time. I could be out.
I don't plan to make a habit out of it, but I'll keep that in mind.
Let me just pack this up for you two, alright? It'll just be a minute.
Each right, 11 a.m.
What? My hand passes short of pulling one of the many empty food containers off the cupboard. Ash is taking it off the post-it note I've recently stick to the refrigerator door. Hannah writes. Although from this angle it appears more like the note itself has done him a world of wrong and now he's glaring at it more than reading it.
Oh yeah, I got that one a few days ago. They wanted magazine features of the new home. Ermin, something. The same one Isabella sold.
Wow, they sure don't waste any time. I was just finalizing their papers for final approval last night.
You sure about this?
Nah, I've had worse. Also, it pays a lot for one-time work. Can't exactly complain when it's like that.
Why is Ashton saying no? Does he know what's going on? That would kind of explain why he's dressed the way he is. He knows what's going on and isn't really a normal investigator. Could it be a paranormal investigator?
Why?
He doesn't comment on it further. He simply sticks the note back in its place among the mess of papers and recipes on the fridge, and casually stuffs both his hands on his pockets. His eyebrows, however, are drawn together in a small frown. Ash may not say anything on it, but I'm quite sure there's something in his mind he simply can't voice out, likely due to present company. He stays woolly silent after. Packing for 3 people doesn't take long, and all too soon, I'm leading the 2 of them out the doorway. A small paper bag swings in Isabella's hand when she makes her way out, giving me a casual wave as she takes the flight of steps down ahead of her companion. Ash, however, lags behind.
Go on, you can tell me.
I'm sure you know what you're getting into, but try not to get too involved with that couple.
Oh, you know something about the couple.
Relax. I doubt they'll even remember me after this. I'm just a photographer passing by, nothing more. Though it'd be nice to get a regular client. Easy on the pockets, of course.
Find some other one after this. Not them. Never them. Luxborn's big enough.
Huh. So the Evans Rights company is a big foul player.
Okay, if it'll make you feel better.
He doesn't look completely convinced by my answer, but he nods nevertheless and claps a hand on my shoulder on his way out. A mild draft sweeps into the room as I close the door behind him, slightly disturbing the papers on the nearby fridge. A low note flutters by my feet, the letter on the surface glaring at me with mute intensity. Ermengarde Mansion, 8 right, 11 AM for luxury living. After Ashton's warning, they all hold a different meaning now. October 27th, Thursday. But let's see here, what did it say? Ashton arriving to fetch Isabella hours later, but she didn't want to leave after all the food that they prepared. After a few reassurances, Zachary convinces her to come with Ashton. A brief talk about the Wrights and Zach's upcoming gig occurs before the detective departs. The next day rushes by in a blur, altogether leaving a collective mess of work suddenly piling up, and new unexpected acquaintances, or friends. Depends on how you look at it, really. Either way, I'm stuck developing these photos at 3 in the morning to reach a deadline set by an overeager art director. Don't get me wrong, Julius is good, has a vision, and knows what he wants, but damn, he can be too enthusiastic sometimes.
Doesn't matter when you couldn't sleep anyway.
There's nothing new in it, of course. After years of working as a freelance photographer, it's simply something I have grown used to. Get to know people, build a client base, do good work and cash in some late hours if need be. Rinse and repeat. It certainly takes a while to get some footing on the field, but it's the kind of thing that pays off in the long run as long as you keep at it. Given enough time, you might end up with big names on your client list. Names like the Wrights, in particular. I never did pay much attention to them, but it's virtually impossible not to hear about them when a local news channel or paper has something to say on their name. A party here, an acquisition there, Sometimes it's a new business venture, other times it's the everyday gossip that typically follows popular people like them. Not in a million years did I ever imagine I would end up working for such a high-profile couple. And between that and the fuss that comes with, it leaves me no time to ponder over whatever happened to Isabella, or why Ash is so adamant we keep away from the pair.
They do seem like the good folk, though, despite the whole fame thing.
Hannah, yes. Luke, no. But maybe you don't know that yet. Sure, there was a rumor running around years ago about him being involved in some business scandal. But just like every gossip blown out of proportion by the media, nothing came of it, and eventually it simply died down. Much is definitely left to be said for the husband, but I doubt a woman like Miss Wright. Should be Mrs. though, right? Mrs. Wright would pick him if he doesn't have any good points at all. Mrs. Wright, Hannah herself though, she ain't particularly bad the way the press makes her out to be. The tabloids had it all wrong, that's for sure. For someone born with a silver spoon in her mouth, well, she ain't exactly what I was expecting. Among other things, the newfound friendship is what I least expected from her. Well, here we are. Although with a life as public as the Wrights, no wonder it's the woman who often gets the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a real nice person when given the chance. Heck, she might even ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabella too, if they weren't living worlds apart. Probably. The beep quickly pulls me back before my thoughts travel any further. In one practice motion, I carefully place a wet print I'm holding on a drying rack, and amble over my makeshift darkroom to get the last photos from the water bath. Inside the converted broom closet, the film processor lets out another soft clack before going on its standby mode. At its mouth, a lone photograph sits on the tray, barely visible with a lack of light. It's the last one tonight for the set Miss Wright requested. I don't usually make this a habit, giving away stuff that is. It's bad for business, no matter how well-intentioned or generous you are. This exception, however. She did treat me well and was a pleasant companion all throughout the shoot. Even if she didn't ask, I would have probably given her a few prints just for the hell of it. Miss Wright ain't such a bad subject matter to begin with. And maybe this is just me, but for someone who has everything at the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a loving husband and a plenty big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in the tone of her voice, how she moves, and most certainly in her smiles. Always hidden behind the glamour for the world to never see. Sometimes for people like her, small things like these helps. A little reminder that the world can be kind too. Water drips from the paper as I blindly pick it up and gently lay it on another tray holding a decent amount of photo flow. A few seconds under the solution is all it needs before it's ready for drying. No good rushing this last one even if my body is already screaming for some decent snooze. My hand fumbles for the light switch, moving toward it with familiarity, while I fish for a squeegee among the mess of tools on a drawer with the other. The bulb flickers twice before its glow settles and casts a soft light in a tiny space. When I glance back down, squeegee in hand, ready to finish the process and finally call it a night, that fucking ghost is in the picture, right?
What on earth?
Arrgh! Far worse. Way worse. Fuck off. Her head's gone. Blurred and distorted beyond recognition, rather. The area completely smudged over, leaving no trace of the same sweet smile the good woman carried in all the previous prints.
Damn, that was too careless.
A common mistake to make, of course, if one is negligent enough to pick a newly processed photo in the dark like I apparently did. It has happened before, loads of time actually. But I still can't help but feel a small pang of frustration over one mistake a newbie would likely make. With a sigh, I reach up for the switch again, intending to develop a new one from scratch.
It could pass off for one of those supernatural pictures they show on TV, though.
It is exactly that. A memory clicks. One cursory thought in a sea of many, and a short yet distinct second from the day before. A glimpse is all I got, but it's enough to burn the image in my mind. There was a shadow. Oh, that is fucking horrifying to see through the camera lens. No. A woman. In her 20s or early 30s maybe. But with how far gone her flesh alone has become, it's not possible to tell at first glance. The skin itself has already taken a sickly pale color, rotten in most parts, blood dripping from her every open gash and lesion on her body. Bony hands grip Miss Wright's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes.
Zachary?
Alright. Not for me, but for Miss Wright.
Zach, is something the matter?
Oh no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something, that's all. Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah?
The murmur alone is enough to make me retch. I brushed it off then. A trick of the eye, I told myself, or a product of the heat. The weather has been unexpectedly warmer recently, so it shouldn't be too surprising for such things to happen. And, while blaming this on the usual, fatigue and overworked brain, the weather, or an amateur error on my part, was far more convenient. Ooh, that's horrifying! Some of Hannah's shots from the footage shoot the day before came out distorted after Zachary developed them. He would have almost dismissed it as human error if he hadn't remembered a chilling memory from yesterday's shoot. And here we go. Oh, it's November 1st, the last day. It makes a whole lot of sense than what the hell the small voice inside my head whispers. The same tiny voice that only makes itself known when some things are foul. The same one that lent a curious ear to Isabella's worries about the mansion. And with each second I spend staring at this photograph, the murmurs in my head only grows louder against my ears. Someone has to know. Ooh. Wait, now let's see here. Has Hannah seen the... She hasn't seen the ghost there. She has had the nightmares, I believe. I don't trust Zach with it, unfortunately. No, Ash, I mean. Because he's just gonna... Even... I would like to show this to Isabella, though. There seems to be no proof that Hannah knows what's going on. Whoa, why is 19 and 20 missing? Never seen that before. That's strange. I guess nothing happens on those dates, but still. Well, this is obviously something that needs to be saved. And I want to show it to Hannah. I don't have an explanation for what I saw yesterday, yet. But when you've been there, seen something enough to raise the hairs at the back of your neck or leave you wanting to flee or hide, Finding a more solid proof than a person's smudged off face on a photo is the least of my concerns. Ashton will undoubtedly give me a flack for saying that, or even considering Isabella's words and those silly tales about the place. The guy is a skeptic through and through. It'll take more than my account for him to even give this a single thought. However, more than his opinion, it's Miss Wright I'm concerned about. Surely, she must have felt something if those shows on the TV are to believe. A touch of coldness in the neck, or maybe the feeling of being watched. That's what often happens, ain't it? Outside, the sun is yet to rise. I've still got a few hours before dawn. Good enough time to mull over how I'll go about warning her. Plenty of space to check if I'll go the same result if I redo the process again. The film processor hums back to life at my touch. The light switch gives off a soft click, and darkness embraces a small closet again.
Somehow those urban legends don't sound so silly now.
Yeah, and I'm scared that something will happen here. Nope, nothing happens. Okay, in hindsight, this is a dumb idea. But that is where I will cut off for today's episode. Ooh, it might be a little shorter than usual. But yeah, this is a perfect place. I like to cut right between scenes, as you know. So this is where we cut off for today's episode. And we will just have to wait to find out how Hannah Wright feels about this whole thing. So if you want to watch anything else that I've been playing, you can find it at the bottom of the screen. And remember, just because you're not the main character doesn't mean you're not important. Goodbye, everyone.